Hello and welcome to Soul Care Conversations. This episode is on balancing mental health and ministry in the inner journey, mental health coaching for a deeper faith. I'm Kim Miller, and we're going to be talking today about mental health coaches and how Compass Ministries utilizes mental health coaching to provide services to missionaries. We're going to take a minute and just introduce ourselves. Rebekah, you want to start?
Hi, I'm Rebekah Fernandez. I am a mental health coach with Compass Ministries. Been doing it for a couple years. I am a missionary kid from Haiti. I lived there for a little over 12 years. I'm married to the handsome Kenneth Fernandez, and I initially moved back to the States to join Compass Ministries.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Fernandez. I'm a volunteer peer support specialist here at Compass Ministries.
I'm Kim Miller. My husband Mike and I were missionaries in Honduras for 14 years, and we became part of the Compass Care team about a year ago, and I am a mental health coach.
I'm Mike Miller. I do mental health, I do spiritual direction and also do debriefing with Compass Ministries.
My name is Spenser. I am an MK from Brazil. I actually moved here to go to the Ruth house that used to be the men's house back in the day, so it's not the Ruth house anymore, or it wasn't the Ruth house at the time. But I've been working with Compass for about 3 years now in administration, and I am a certified mental health coach with the AACC as well.
Hi, my name is Vivian Lacuesta. I was a missionary to Colombia for 8 years, and I've been part of Compass Ministries. I started as a volunteer, and for the last 5 years, I've been operating as the spiritual director of the Root House and also as a mental health coach.
Very good. So coaching, we get this question a lot. What is the difference between coaching and counseling and spiritual directors? I'm sure we've all had those, and peer support.
Yep.
What is the difference between these different services that Compass provides? And so while none of us in this room are counselors, we came up with this definition. Counseling is more a counselor-led conversation that is problem-focused. So it's someone with a mental health issue that needs to be, it's been diagnosed and needs to be addressed, and they do so by exploring experiences in the past that may be affecting that person's life. Coaching is more a client-led conversation that is goal-focused. The client decides what area they want to work on, and they evaluate their current life, and they decide what they want to change to reach a goal in the future. So counseling is more focused on the past and what's happened in the past, experiences in the past. Coaching is more focused on the future and solutions, finding solutions to improve or reach a goal. Spiritual direction, correct me if I'm wrong, is a spirit-led conversation between a director and a directee that is also involves prayer, is spirit-focused. It's attending to God's presence during the spiritual direction session, as well as helping the client to see God's presence in their everyday life.
And hear what God is saying to them.
And be aware. Mm-hmm. And then peer support is a friendly conversation with someone who understands what missionary life is like and is willing to provide a listening ear to discuss whatever's on that person's heart. So it's basically just a friendly conversation, a conversation between two friends, just providing that extra support that someone may need. So what is one of the types of clients maybe that you all have had, either as coaching or for spiritual direction, who might come to seek those types of services through Compass?
So usually after somebody comes for a debriefing, and then they want to go deeper or explore things, how they can move forward, they come and seek spiritual direction, and then we together as a director and a directee, we are asking a father, like, what do you have for this person? Or as they move forward, what is God saying? Where should they go? And so we can actually have a conversation with God the Father and let the Spirit lead them where they may go. Like for example, if they're being called to go back to the mission field or not being called back to the mission field, we're asking God the Father to help them guide them through that process.
Do you want to add anything?
So in my personal experience, because I practice or get to do it specifically in the Root House context, which is our missionary kids' house. So we help missionary kids in their when they are coming from overseas, coming here to study or work. So we help them in that transition. In that specific role, I get the opportunity to guide them to the Lord and also giving them tools to connect with God. And we do follow-ups every week of what is the Lord showing, what is like in their experiences in life at the moment. What is happening and where is God in that experience, and maybe explore what he's doing. And so also to attune to hear the Lord's voice. So that's practically what we do.
So just staying on the spiritual direction path for a moment, how is spiritual direction different than discipleship?
Because in spiritual direction, we start off every session with going into silence and listening to what God or the Spirit is guiding us to discuss during that time. And I'm really, as a director, I'm not ever answering a question. I'm asking him questions, him or her questions, and saying, what does God say about that? And we're saying in silence, and we're saying in prayer, and letting the Spirit or God lead the directee. And then he speaks, he breaks the silence. I never break the silence. He breaks the silence, he or she, and says what they heard God say in their time of silence.
You want to expand on that?
I will say that that's the main difference in be attuned to what God is connecting to God. So I will agree with what Mike saying. Mike said. So learning to attune to God, to be aware of Him, His presence in your life.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes we even use scripture of like Lectio Divina, that what is God saying to you in that scripture? And then they're saying God is saying this, or if they get stuck in that, then we're just setting the silence again and saying, God, could you speak to this person in the scripture and show them what you want them to see in your word? Because God speaks to us in different ways. He speaks to us through His word. He speaks to us sometimes through other people, or he speaks to us, in our mind. I mean, because God is omnipresent, so He's all around us, so we can hear from God in many different ways.
I don't know if you agree with that, with this, Mike, but also I will say, like in discipleship, you have intentional subjects or particular things that you want to teach or impart. While in spiritual direction, it depends on what there is something that be sensitive to the Spirit and what is being happening or going on, and you don't have like a plan.
That's right.
Of what it's going to look like, but it just develops in the connection with God, what God is showing.
Yeah, because even I'm a directee under a spiritual director myself, and even in that, say if I'm meeting with my directee and I hear maybe God saying something to me, I take a moment of silence and say, well, is this person ready to hear what you're telling me, or do I just need to hold that? And just hold that for a time when he or she is ready for that, because we're all in different spots in our spiritual journey. And even though what I'm hearing may be from God, or it could be something that Mike is thinking, so I have to just sit in my silence. And like Vivian was saying, we never come to the direct to the session with the end results. We're always asking God the Father or God the Spirit to speak to us and show us what He has for the directee during that time. It's never Mike or Vivian is leading the conversation. It's always us guiding him to hear what God is saying to he or she in that conversation.
So to kind of boil it down a little bit, it might be that in discipleship, that person is new to the faith, relatively new to the faith, and so they're developing spiritual disciplines, whereas the spiritual direction, they may or may not be already be practicing spiritual disciplines, and you're helping them to go deeper in their faith and deeper along in the spiritual journey. Would you say that that's true? That could be one of the scenarios.
Yeah, I would say that's true. But as we mature as Christians and mature as a church and come closer, I think the spiritual direction is actually should even be entered even in with spiritual discipleship, because that through direction you're actually helping a directee to hear from God and hear what God is saying. Maybe even in discipleship, okay, discipleship, you're hearing God say this. Well, let's go deeper into that. Why are you hearing God say that, and what does God want to say more into that? So, for example, they may hear something in their discipleship program, and they'll bring the spiritual direction and say, I heard God say that. So I said, then we can say, let's be quiet and let God speak to you more into that, and then God will speak to them in that, so they can go deeper in their spiritual life with God through discipleship and spiritual direction, going hand in hand.
Yeah, complementary to each other.
Right, exactly. So spiritual direction could be used in discipleship, but spiritual direction cannot replace discipleship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
As well as you're mentioning also mental health coaching, also
Right.
that it can go along, a spiritual direction can go alongside mental health coaching, but it's not a replacement.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, debriefing is kind of like spiritual direction, because you're actually asking questions to them, and they're doing more talking than we are. We're there for the directee to hear what God is saying to them. They're not hearing what God is saying to me. It's about them and God.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what type of client have you all seen in coaching? What might be a typical client that comes in and is seeking coaching, mental health coaching? You want to?
Well, the ones that I usually take are usually teenagers, TCKs that are coming back to the U.S., or at least that has been my experience. They need help with like transition, like what to expect or how to make friends in high school or middle school, going into college and that kind of thing, and really helps to attend the transition seminar from interaction, because we get some ideas and then we can implement it there, and then we also get some kids from there that apply for coaching. So yeah, those are usually the people that I have worked with.
Okay. How about you, Rebekah?
For me, I usually have older teenagers or young adults, more so young adults. At this point, just ladies, who are also in transition. Usually they're starting college, they're getting jobs, and they're facing personal conflicts with finding themselves like they're supposed to be part of the American culture. They look like Americans, but in their hearts they're not. And a lot of times what I work with them is how to explain to people in a nice way where they're coming from, how they are having a hard time understanding some of the social cues going on. And like still being true to their TCK, third culture kid identity, but also making space for the American culture. Like I found, like even growing up on the mission fields, me, like it felt like sometimes to embrace the culture we grew up in, we had to reject our American identity. Because maybe we had some poor experiences with Americans, or the culture we were part of had some poor experience with Americans. So then we use that as a blanket judgment for all Americans, and it felt like we were betraying the culture that we called home and ourselves by embracing the American culture. So that was something that I had to work through, and it's still a process for me living here in the States. And that's something that I help my clients with, of like not treating it like an enemy, like a this or that thing, but you can be both and enjoy both simultaneously.
Yeah, like that paradox of this and this, not one or the other. I like
Yeah.
that. I like the way you said that. Being able to hold space for both
Mhm.
aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
As a TCK, and
Mhm.
that is something.
So like being open
Mhm.
to new experiences
Yeah.
and things that even like going against a belief or a tradition that you
Mhm.
have.
Correct.
What about your coaching clients?
Well, my coaching clients are same group.
Okay.
So it's the missionary kids,
Okay.
third
great.
culture kids, and it is a lot of more. My coaching is in the practical way.
Mhm.
So we what we work on is in relationships basically and life skills.
Okay.
So
Very good.
we do a lot of practical areas in that.
Okay.
So it's more sitting down and going through specific things that each individual we see.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. And then the client decides what those specific things are? Or is-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
it's
good.
part of what they want to work
Mhm.
with or
Right.
want to.
Work toward that goal.
Work
They
towards,
they set the goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I actually work with a different set of clients in my coaching. Mine are usually missionaries that are either going through transition or are parenting on the mission field. That was our experience, learning the hard way how to parent on the mission field. So I might provide support for them in that way, or adult missionaries going through transition. Also, I might have a client who has been diagnosed with a mental health issue and has met their goals in counseling or in therapy, but they still need some accountability or some accompaniment as they continue to face life challenges. And so I might help walk with them through that season after counseling. Or it could be a missionary who doesn't have a diagnosed mental health disorder, but is just struggling with certain things. Like they don't maybe have an anxiety diagnosis, but they're struggling with anxiousness and just like some anxious thoughts. And so they might need someone to walk with them for a time to meet some certain goals. If they're having trouble with social anxiety, their goal would be to be able to go to church without feeling having their anxiety triggered, something like that. But they're not, maybe necessarily have not been diagnosed. So maybe it's something that's short term. And that's something that the clients we see for coaching are generally short, about 6 months. So usually it can be anywhere from, I don't know about you guys, how often you see, but it's generally, it can either be once a week or once every 2 weeks for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Is that about the same for you guys? Okay. And then as they continue to progress in the coaching and meeting more and more of their goals, they come up with new goals. They maybe not the goals that they initially had. They could be coming up with new goals as they progress through the coaching sessions, and then they would then we might go to once a month, or it might just be a quarterly follow-up phone call, just to touch base again and make sure that they're doing well. So. That's kind of the coaching aspects. I don't know, for spiritual direction, what's the frequency for you guys for spiritual direction?
So normally it's once a month for about an hour. But if you're in a spiritual practice, a spiritual direction, you can be spiritual direction the rest of your life. I mean,
Right.
I'm new in spiritual direction as being a spiritual director, but people aren't getting trained by, they've had clients for 15, 20 years that see them once a month for an hour, because you're constantly being transformed in the image of God. And this spiritual, this practice of spiritual direction is helping you be transformed.
Mm-hmm. So, and that brings me to another question, the difference between coaching and spiritual direction, where coaching is goal-oriented, spiritual direction is more transformative in the long-term process. Whereas once we get through this coaching, once you get through this season or once you get through this transition, then you would no longer need that level of support. And for peer support, what is, I know that you work with MKs, is that right?
A little bit with MKs, but it's also interesting with peer support. What I kind of love is like, honestly, anybody can really be a peer support because it's really just listening. And I think with time and actually active listening to the person, because a lot of times when people have conversations, it's more like you speak, then I speak, you speak, and I speak. With peer support, you're actually listening to their concerns, to their hurts. And what I also love being involved in Compass is I'm actually what's called a monocultural. I haven't grown up in this TCK world. Right. So a lot of it I have to learn and listen to, like Rebekah's saying, because a lot of people just don't understand, right? A lot of the churches and monoculture is like, oh, you're American, you went somewhere for a little bit, now you're back. But they don't understand the difficulties, the traumas, or again, coming back the reverse culture shock of what TCK is now. Okay, now enter America, now get a driver's license when monoculturals and everybody else has had 10, 15, 20 years to learn this stuff. So that's what I really love with peer support is you're actually listening to this person be like, I've never felt that, but that sounds super difficult of coming back to a place you were born, but you don't really classify as home. And you may not ever classify that as home, and that's okay. But that's what I also love with Compass Ministries when we have our Wednesday night Bible studies, is when we hang out with these people and we get to talk to these other MKs and like, hey, how's your week going? We get to share a meal and they get to process things and understand kind of the culture of America in this smaller Bible study like space that isn't really a church, but it's like more of a closer knit Bible study really, which that's what I really love. That's where I really think peer support really works. And I think also peer support can really work outside the church as well, where a lot of other church members can be like actually listening to their congregation or listening to their missionary cares when they come back from the field. It's like, hey, we don't have the skills, but that's where we can reach out to Compass or get a coach involved if it's serious like that. But peer support is helping at that level. It's like, hey, let's help you. Let's help process some things, or just you can talk, like vent.
Right. I love that you brought that in with the church, that correlation where if a church is sending church who has sent a missionary out, they have the skills to do peer support in the sense that they can be a listening ear, provide a listening ear, and be someone that is a non-judgmental presence, a non-anxious presence that can just provide that solace that missionaries need when they come back from being overseas and are on furlough or are in transition or have gone through a crisis. Then they're able to just be a listening ear and provide support, and then be able to direct them. Hey, I'm hearing that this is maybe a little deeper than what's needed. So let's have you go to this coach, or let's have you go to this counselor and seek more in-depth professional support. Did you have something?
Yeah, I think we have to remember too. I mean, we are the church. And so even when we come here on Wednesday night for Bible study, or we come for spiritual direction or mental health coaching, we are the church, and we're all called to listen. And I mean, I grew up in America, and then moved to Honduras, and being part of that, and being part of a third culture, it makes you want to listen more anyway. Because sometimes you don't even understand the language. You have to actually listen deeper to understand what's going on. And so I really learned, even in Honduras, to just listen better, be a better listener. So that's why I love spiritual direction, because, sometimes my directee will say, well, I talked the whole time. I'm like, that's what's supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to talk. I'm supposed to ask good questions to keep you talking and to keep you hearing from God. My job is not to talk. If you want to talk, we'll go out and have a burger or whatever. But that's not about spiritual direction. This is about hearing you and hearing God talk.
That's right. Very good.
I love what you said about we are the church, right? And I think that it's so important for us, a body of believers, to be aware of that, right? Like I think it's easy to associate your Christian life with a role in order to sit down with a person. But it's not necessary. I mean, you don't need a title all the time, right? Like Kenneth was saying, I love that, like having a listening ear. And so we all are called to be peer supports,
Mhm.
brothers and sisters to support each other. We need that community. So I love that. I love that you're reminding us that we are the church. We're all the church.
That's right. Amen. And I think there's power in giving someone your full attention, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
There's power in giving someone your full attention because that's just so healing. It's an opportunity for the Lord to really work and heal. And you may be the only person that has sat down and listened to their story and has been willing to sit and shown interest in their life overseas, shown interest in their family life and how hard it is to the joys and the struggles of raising a family overseas. So there's definitely power in that.
I noticed like a healing aspect with the missionaries and missionary kids that we serve is when they're on the mission field, typically they're giving.
Yes.
And then when they come back to their home church, if they have one, my family, we had a collection of churches, we didn't just have one. So whatever your background is, when you come back to your home church, quote unquote, even well-meaning people are still asking you to give. Like, give us your testimony. What's going on? How is our support? Like, how is your support? Like, what can you tell us about where the money's going? How are this population that you're serving? So even though these are well-meaning people, and missionaries do need to share about where the support money is going and what's going on overseas, it still requires energy. So even when they're back in whatever home country they came from, it's not really vacation, even though it's being labeled that. It's still work.
That's
Sure.
right.
So then Compass Ministries and organizations who do similar things to what we do with just giving missionaries and missionary kids a listening ear, it's finally the time where they can be the ones that receive, where they don't have to give
That's right.
anything. And they can talk about whatever they want to talk about with insane reason, and we'll keep it, private. They can take off the professional mask, like that's like what I see where a lot of healing comes that even goes aside from spirituality and mental health awareness, which of course also are absolutely needed, big deal. But sometimes like such a healing thing can be for the missionary kid or the missionary just to vent.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just get it out and
Yeah.
purge it and then, move on. That's like one aspect of it.
Well, that's why it's so important for Compass Ministries and other people to do missionary care.
Mm-hmm.
They're not tied to any denomination or any church.
Yeah.
So anything that the missionary brings to us, we can hold in front of God the Father with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to report to anybody and their struggles and we kind of understand that of being in the third culture. We kind of understand that this is very important to just hear what they're struggling with, and then we don't need to fix them because only God can fix them.
Yep.
So then we can say, let's hold this in front of the Father. Let's look and see what God has to say about this struggle, and then God speaks to them, and then that's where the healing begins, as God speaks to them and speaks to their deep soul.
I think that's something that a lot of missionaries struggle with. At least I know we did when we were out
Sure.
in the fields. Is feeling like you can take that mask off, like you said, and feeling like you could have a conversation and really tell people how you've got this group that you tell how you're doing in this to this level, to this kind of shallow level, and then you've got Compass or another organization or a dear friend, someone who's providing peer support in a debrief with Compass or with someone else, where you can really just lay it all out and be raw and vulnerable and allow the Lord to heal and have someone who can listen and walk you through that process. And that, we're not here to talk about debriefing, but but debriefing is a service that Compass provides, and it's a valuable service because that's exactly what you're doing is you're literally laying out all of your struggles on a piece of paper in a timeline, and then going through and processing each one of those. So it's a beautiful and healing process. It requires a lot of energy. I love that you mentioned energy because missionaries who are coming home on furlough have very low energy generally. Generally, they've had a lot of things to wrap up before they left their host country. Then they've got the travel of coming to the U.S., and then they've got deputation or whatever you want to call it, the fundraising circuit. And so I remember one time I was like, my poor children, they have slept in a different bed every single night this week. And so that, I mean, and people don't know that. And I didn't make that known either. But, you know, that's when you start to say, okay, we need to back off on scheduling back to back, because you do feel like you get into a routine of, I only put on the false self. I only put on the face of the missionary. And so that's where Compass provides a great service. And that doing that for a long period of time can be very damaging to your soul.
Sure, and I think that's where we're also passionate about missionary care,
right,
and about debriefing and mental health coaching and spiritual direction, because we've all been there. And we've all been in that spot where we didn't have anybody to even share these deep things in our soul that are really bothering us. And so you have to carry that around. Now, of course, we have God the Father to share with. We didn't even have anybody to help us, to guide us to that point of where to share that. So that's why we're so passionate about Compass and about missionary care, that we can actually come alongside people and guide them through mental health coaching and through spiritual direction, that they won't get to that point, hopefully, that they need to see a counselor. We're trying to prevent that from happening.
So let's just debunk the myth. Let's debunk the myth that missionaries don't have mental health issues, or that they don't need counseling,
or Christians in general.
Or Christians in general. That they should be super spiritual.
That's not a measure of level of faith.
Exactly.
Or spirituality.
That's right. Exactly.
I think that's probably some part of the myth, that it is for people hard to even look when something is not going well for them. Even the possibility of the word mental health is like,
right.
No, and they will probably can benefit from external help and not get to a point where it becomes hard to manage.
Right.
So
right.
I think like that's a good point you're bringing up.
Yeah, because in a perfect Christian world, before they got to that point, they'd have a mental health coach or a spiritual director guiding them so they wouldn't get to that point. But here we are in a broken, sinful world where that doesn't happen. But I mean, if we had more people coming and seeking spiritual direction before they got to that point, I think it would slow that down a little bit.
Well, and that kind of goes along
with
what Rebekah has talked about in the past. You want to talk about like coaching as triage?
Yeah. Like my point of view is like, if the mental health field were equated the same as the medical health field, like a counselor would be a doctor, a psychiatrist would be a surgeon, but a mental health coach is an EMT. We're the people that deal with the triage, the immediate needs of the clients. And then if there's something more serious going on with the clients, we have enough training not to diagnose or anything, but we have enough training to be like, okay, this goes beyond just feeling a little sad. Like, let me send you to a counselor so that if they're actually clinically depressed, then they can get the help they need. I think also, like, I know for me, it wasn't even, like my family wasn't against mental health, like care or issues. It was more that we were just naive to it. We just didn't know a lot about it. So my point of view growing up was like, if somebody was depressed, it was more of just an emotional issue. Like maybe they went through a trauma. I didn't know that one. Maybe they went through a trauma and felt depressed as a result of that. But as far as like a full medical diagnosis of depression, I thought I wasn't sure if I believed in it or not. I didn't know what to think. But now, like, some people are born with depressive issues, and that requires medication or extra support that somebody who doesn't have that issue may not have. So if you have that chronic issue and then you're on the missionary field where people just don't know about it or don't believe in it, it can create even greater traumas that could be avoided, which, again, Compass ministries like ours, where we can talk with our clients so that way we can teach them proper self-care, help them get the help they need before bigger issues come up. Like another way I view it is like I have always needed glasses. It's a problem that runs in my family. One of my eyes is almost completely blind. Like, I do not see well. But I've never had people confront me on it being a sin or that I didn't have faith because I wear glasses. It's something that I need to be normal. So just like mental health care, some people have issues that they're born with that's no fault of their own, and they need medication and extra help, and that's not a right or wrong thing or sign of lack of faith. It's just something that they need because we have broken bodies. None of us are perfect, and all of us have a weakness physically, mentally, spiritually, in some form or fashion. So, like, one thing I love about Compass Ministries is it combines spirituality, praying, belief in other spiritual entities that are not human, and the Lord, as well as black and white mental health issues and emotional disturbances that really aren't right or wrong. It's just the nature of being a human. Like, I feel like this organization combines the two pretty well. That's been my personal experience.
I agree. There's a good integration within Compass of best practices in mental health fields and spirituality and Christianity, and being able to integrate the two in a healthy way that respects the whatever the doctrinal belief is of the client,
Sure.
not pushing a specific doctrine or a specific point of view. I think that the counselors at Compass do a great job and letting the client guide that.
Yeah, because there are times in spiritual direction or mental health counseling that we have to say that we can't help this person. We have to refer them to a true counselor, and then hopefully at some point they can come back to us or even stay with us through that they can be spiritually healed through that counselor, then come back to mental health coaching or spiritual direction to move forward in their spiritual growth and transformation.
Right. So that doesn't mean that you're transitioning the care of that client to the counselor, and then the counselor could then refer them back to you.
Or you could be seeing them at the same point because, I mean, even though...
for spiritual direction. For mental health,
direction,
yeah. For mental health coaching, you wouldn't want to do that. But
spiritual direction, you can still be with the counselor and also receiving spiritual direction.
Because you're working on two different areas.
Right.
You're working on mental health issues and you're working on spiritual.
That's right.
Spiritual progress or
That's
spiritual.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. But for mental health coaching,
that's right.
We would do a transition to the counselor, and then the counselor would.
And the hope and prayer is it would come back to you,
right,
for mental health coach.
Yeah, very good. So what's another myth that we can debunk while we're?
So spiritual direction is not just for Catholics. It's for any Christian. So the evangelical, that's a Catholic thing or whatever. No. It is a true thing. We look at spiritual direction all through the Bible. We see even in the Jewish culture there were spiritual directors that guided people to hearing from God. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's biblical.
Okay.
Although, like we have to admit, and I think like even I think the Catholic Church has been the ones who have been consistent, and we have to thank them because otherwise we wouldn't even know that such a thing exists. And they have been faithful in doing it for so many years, and we have a lot to learn from them.
The mystics were the ones that really brought that up in the Catholic Church, and I'm a modern day mystic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying?
How might coaching help us? I mean, we've talked about spiritual direction, deepening your faith. How might coaching deepen a client's faith? If you have any thoughts on that.
I know for me, again, it is very much client-led. They tell me what they feel like their current problems are that they want to work on, and then I'm like accountability, support system, and encourager to help them stay on track. So faith usually does come up at some point, even if it's not immediately what they wanted to talk about. Sometime or another, it comes up. So one, like for my missionary kids, them actually being able to say, I'm struggling in my faith,
Mm.
and knowing that I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, are you a Christian? Like, you should be better. Like, I'm
You're
not
a
gonna,
missionary kid. What do you mean you're struggling in your faith?
hey, didn't your
No.
parents teach you?
Right.
Like, no, I'm not going to do
Right.
that. It's like, okay, so you're struggling in your faith. Tell me more. Like,
Mhm.
and that's that. I'm not going to confront them on that. If I were to confront them on anything, it would be that they're not being true to themselves. Like, they're
Mhm.
saying one thing and then doing something else. That's what I would confront as a
Mhm.
coach.
Mhm.
But if they're struggling in their faith, or if their faith is starting to look different than what they grew up with, or they're just not sure about like a particular issue, then I just let them talk about it and let them, as much as they can, I really try to let them figure out their own problems with me being a non-judgmental listening ear.
Mhm.
So I think that's something, like, I know, again, for me growing up, because my parents were in leadership on the missions compound that we grew up on, with my struggles, I didn't talk to anybody
Mhm.
because it wasn't safe, because it would reflect on my parents. And that wasn't something my parents directly told me,
Mhm.
but circumstantially, it was a message that I was given. So I talked with my mom about some of my stuff, but like people outside my family, outside of my mom specifically, I didn't tell, even if I considered them a good friend. It was always me, myself, and I figuring this stuff out.
Wow.
So, though I don't assume that same story on on the missionary kids that come to me, I keep that in mind that they
Sure.
might have had the same situation.
Mhm.
So, and I know for me, like at that time, if somebody had just been a listening ear for me to say anything I wanted to, that in and of itself would have been healing. So that's the environment I try to create for them, an environment where I'm not the one fixing it, but I'm definitely the one to be there so that they can't say that they were alone.
Right.
Like, that's my biggest thing. I don't want them, like,
Be alone.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I try to provide in my own limited way. That's what I try to provide to my clients.
I think that's also a myth we can debunk, is that MKs have such an amazing life, and which is true. I mean, there are many beautiful aspects of being a missionary kid or a third culture kid, but that's another myth we can debunk, that they don't have real life problems and a lot of isolation.
Mhm.
A lot of isolation.
Even if you're in a crowded place.
Even if you're in a crowd. Yeah. Even if you're on a full compound of
Yeah.
other missionaries.
Mhm.
I think something that goes with it is what Rebekah is saying, that a lot of people will assume that they have a Christian faith, but that may not be the case.
Yeah.
sometimes.
Exactly.
So I think that's also important to know, because it's happening more often now than I guess used to. But yeah, and so something that I will usually help my clients with the spiritual life is more practical, is to kind of help them set goals, what they want to achieve. And I just help them, like, okay, so how do you want to do this? Like, you need reminders, and even just being like a listening ear, like Rebekah mentioned. If they're not doing well, or if they just asking questions, essentially, like, so why is that, or what are you seeing, and trying to set a goal and then keep working on the goal moving forward.
Very good. That's so powerful to be able to bring your own experience as well. I mean, and like you said, not assuming that they've had the same experience that you have, but being able to give them an opportunity and a space to be able to say, I'm really struggling, especially for teenagers. I mean, that's the population that you all work with most, is the teenagers, and that's just a time of identity struggles. And so in a monocultural, to use your term, in a monocultural, meaning you just came from one culture setting, there it's an identity crisis. And then it should be putting in this: am I Honduran or am I American? Am I Haitian or am I American? And then mixing, or if they've moved around to several different places, then you can, they're having identity issues, they're having faith struggles. It's a time when naturally, developmentally, they're coming to their own faith. And so to be able to have that support is essential.
Yeah, I will also, like, in my experience, also I have noticed that, or I use a lot of present circumstances, something that is going on, like, could seem very light or superficial, and in that, trying to go deeper what is behind that, and usually we get to spiritual roots of things, and in that the choice, right?
Yes.
Of allowing, are you willing or open to
Sure.
to let God work in that area of life, or what do you want to do? So I think in that sense also, it's a way to, obviously for those who chose to allow, generally people want to, generally in my experience, want to work on those things. They, their faith just deepen, and their walk gets stronger.
Right.
Yes, and they get to experience another aspect of faith that it was not connected to simple things. And so that is my experience in working with young people.
Is there anything we want to say? I know that it's not just missionaries that we're addressing here. There are maybe churches that might be watching this as well. So supporting supporters of missionaries. Is there anything that we want to specifically address to either church leaders or supporters of missionaries?
I think for me personally, it'd be just creating this judgment-free zone, right? Because a lot of times,
absolutely,
TCKs and monocultures alike be like, they'll say the lie is everything's fine, I'm fine, God and I are fine. Fine doesn't really mean fine if you really dig down deep. And it's important to be honest and vulnerable and be like, hey, God, in this aspect, I'm struggling and I don't trust you.
Right.
And have another person be like, that's okay. You're not going to burn in hell for that. And it's, God already knows this stuff. Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. Be like, God already knows the inner workings, knows the deficiencies we have. Just being honest and be like, God, I don't trust you. And then also, and that, a lot of times it's like, oh, I need to share everything all at once to everyone around me, churches, people, so I can go like super deep and stuff. But I think it's important to like find a couple people your own age, similar backgrounds, that you know those close people you can talk to and be honest with. Jesus did the same thing with his 12 disciples. He had a relationship with every single one of them, but there was a few core that was in the inner circle with Jesus and got to see things that none of the others did. So I think it's important to find that community and be honest with yourself and with God too, because he can take it.
That's right.
He's a strong God.
Amen.
Yeah, and I would say too, when a missionary does open up to you, just listen and not try to fix it.
Yes.
Sometimes, especially in my background and what I experienced, is you'd say things and they'd feel very uncomfortable, and then they try to either change the subject or they try to fix you, or they'd say, well, let me put you, because Compass Ministry is here to come alongside churches to help them understand what the missionary and missionary children are going through. So you could call upon Compass to come help you, guide you and walk you through these situations that these people may be having as missionaries. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to help guide the missionary and help guide the church to take care of the missionary better, make them healthier.
I think I would say, don't forget the children. It is important to talk. Don't forget us. Yes, it is important to talk to the missionary when they come back to give their report to you. But please take some time with the kids, and please just love on the kids and give them space to talk.
Yeah, but talking, but also listening.
Yeah, listening. Give the kids space to talk.
Yeah, that's right.
I think like also, sometimes, it's part of our relational dynamic to us, how are you? But sometimes you are not really meaning to know.
Right, exactly.
So I think to be very aware, like approaching with an open understanding that you are asking a question, to be there to listen, and to listen in the same way, the good things as well as the bad things.
Exactly.
And I think like that's great, not with the intention to fix, but just to be there and say, wow, whatever comes like to to your mind there, and really listening and say like, that is hard.
Yeah.
How can I pray for you? And really connect. Because sometimes it's, I even have experience where even like missionaries or missionary kids just want to talk about the good things because the bad things are not well received
Sure.
because people don't want to hear it.
Right.
That's right.
So I think like being intentionally willing to hear also the things that are not shiny and pretty and beautiful.
Absolutely.
Sure. Let me caution you to do that, not in a public display. Do that in a private area where you can actually hear
Right.
Yeah.
what's going on. Maybe
You
take them
don't
out
wanna
to breakfast or dinner
Yeah.
separately and hear directly
Yeah.
from them, not in a
That's
public
a good point.
in a public place.
Rebekah, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I agree with everything. I would say, like, I guess, like, for churches who aren't as experienced, like, with missionaries, missionary kids, to be aware that, again, the missionaries, even if they don't like it, they're in the habit of giving.
Yes.
So, obviously, that's not a mindset that you can just magically wave away, especially if you've been in ministry for years and years, or you're a missionary kid and you grew up in the ministry. But still, like, if you're monocultural, welcoming a missionary to your church community or to your home, really, they keep reinforcing, like, I'm just here to listen. Like, what do you want to talk about? What do you like or not like about what's going on? What do you like or not like about the church? Like, get that conversation going. A lot of missionary kids don't even know where to start. So asking them questions, really honest questions, will open that door. And then again, listening. It is hard to hold back the urge to fix it because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, especially if you're in a church setting. It's all about doing, helping. But sometimes the best help you can give is just not doing anything.
That's right.
Just listening,
That's right.
being there, just acknowledging, like, wow, that sounds really hard. Wow, that has to hurt. Or, wow, if I was in your shoes, I'd be crying every day. And then maybe that will lead the conversation. I'm like, what happened? But yeah, just really creating an environment of giving to them rather than feeling like they need to, like, they have to meet your expectations, whatever they may be.
Very good. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap it up. And thank you all for being here, for being on the panel. And we hope that this has been a educational, enlightening conversation for you all to be a part of. We thank you so much for being with us.